My name is Rosita Blanco, the Artsy sister, and today we're reading Saturnastra Monkey King. This is Chapter 8, Part 1. The first night in the Tower Lighthouse was spent catching up, and each of Abel's close companions related their misadventure. And the novelty of the day was the new sound being emanated by Hyperion. How and why it was making such a sound was a subject of most debate, and eventually it came time to get down to business, and standing it plainly, Abel said, I think we should help the downtrodden non-humans get a new lease on life. That's all well and good, but what do we get from this charity venture of yours? Asked Pierre. We get a buffer against the human, explained Abel. I thought we had the dragons for the very reason, protested Tadioki. Might I remind you that we do not have the dragons have us, and maybe the only reason they tolerate us is because we are their buffer against the humans, suggested Abel. I have my doubts, and humans can never help to conquer the might of dragons. Humans can, and in what way do we even serve as a buffer, asked Ida. There wouldn't be dragon riders if their kind couldn't be managed by humans, and I suppose it varies from species to species, and even little guys eventually need help too, mused Abel. That may be true for run-of-the-mill critters, but our neighbors are all of us the dragons, and very few have fought with our enemies, commented Edith. True, but it only takes one lucky success for others to be brave enough to take the dusty road towards domestication, explained Abel. Hey, now that's a fancy word for slavery, said Patty cheerfully, and Winston rolled his eyes as soon as he heard his wife's comment, and as usual she intervened in matters that she barely understood. And ignoring her pointless comment, Winston interjected. So what you're saying is that we need our own buffer against the humans, the same way that the dragons are using us to keep the humans in check. What guarantees do we have that they will not turn on us? Asked Pierre. None, said Garganta, putting the nail in the coffin. We could just integrate them into our society, suggested Patty. Well, I'm cute. Hyperion started making a bizarre sound, and the sound he made were progressively getting louder as the days passed, and it no longer resembled the almost inaudible echo, and little Abba too had grown quite a bit over the last few months, and Abba felt that they were changing out of the desire to interact with their surroundings. Again, he was reminded of a guy in a coma, and the ampiers were aware, and yet they could not make themselves intelligible. And following the tradition of having a one-sided conversations, made Patty say, I think Hyperion likes the idea of integration. Sure he does, said the Virgin sarcastically. Integration has only ever been tried with humans, and I don't know if they have what it takes to survive in the forest, said Abel thoughtfully. There is also no guarantee that they can stop make living like us, interjected Peter. Yes, even I do miss the walks from time to time, and the luxury I once enjoyed, commented Patty. You are free to return to civilization whenever you want, said Winston coolly. Clearly, however, Patty was at a loss for words, and she left the room and the tower as well to soak. Outside, she waited vainly for Winston to have a human reaction, and in the end he continued with the conversation as if nothing had happened. To him, she was just the mother of his children. And the stream of conversation was interrupted by Tadioki, who asked, Aren't you going after her? No, said Winston penitently, and he added, She has nowhere to go and no one to look after her well-being. She is helpless without me. I do not expect her to run off. But what if, insisted Tadioki. If you are so worried, go talk to her, said Winston, and his emphasis made Tadioki feel as if he had been thrown a bucket of cold water. And after recovering from the blow, he staggered upstairs to see how Patty was doing. All the while, Winston never took his eyes from Tadioki. And the party returned to the matters at hand, and a plan of action was crafted, and the first order of business was to visit the northeast town of Budia. Yeah.
You wrote this, okay? You picked that name.
Yeah, Budia. Oh, God. They sound terrible. Almost fantasy names sound terrible when you read them aloud. The town was in the middle of a large forest, and beside the town ran an offshoot of one of the twin rivers, and it wandered to a mile during the summer rainy season, and the river was used to transport goods. Budia was famous for trafficking exotic beasts, and Abel knew this place well, and his contact had been key in helping him acquire spells from the people he had been sold to. And when Abel returned to the town, he found it interesting how much it had grown, and with a staggering 150,000 citizens, Obudia was practically a city. or functionally a city. And according to the birds and the bees, the current prize exports were harpies. And harpies were feathered humanoid creatures with faces and other features similar to human women. And most of the kind lacked sexual dimorphism, so plenty of males were often sold as female. Yeah. Take that. And as soon as Abel and his small platoon touched down, they were greeted by a mini army of 120 soldiers, and the captain said to Abel, "We do not deal with your kind." "Why so?" inquired Abel, genuinely curious. "Had you bothered to research her time, you would have learned that Elbudia has only traded with humans since its foundation," explained the captain. "I am human, and so are my companions," said Abel, gesturing to the others. The captain trembled a little as he gazed at the exotic material of the ship, and from far away it looked normal with a small sailing cabin, and his first impression of the boat was complemented by the dull metallic sound created by Patty's elegant high heels. And since she was originally a true human, the feet did not resemble hand feet like the rest of the Nage. "Is that ship made of metal?" asked the captain. "Yes," said Abel, not wanting to go into details. "Do you take brides?" interjected Pierre. "Officially no," said the captain. "We have some porcelain dolls and little wooden figurines you can take to your kids," said Pierre. The captain and his 120 men surveyed the possible brides. Brides as in, like you pay to
we get
for corruption. You pay for corruption in order to enter town. Oh, so you want a bride? Why didn't you just say so from the very beginning? Toys had never made it into the secluded town, so the secluded, well-fortified town. And reading the situation well, the toys helped Abel and his crew gain entry into the city, and the rites were apparently a type of formality. And in the city, Abel saw a panoply of all the humanoid species like dwarves, mermaids, elves, nymphs, and even a few dragons in disguise. And despite this cosmopolitan vibe, the residents still remained primarily human, although the non-humans were staying at the inns, and it was forbidden for non-humans to purchase a home in town, and they were also only allowed to stay in that place for at most 60 days. And the Buddhist walls were made of wood and timber, and the houses were made of more durable material. And walls were never made of solid material because the woods provided a natural barrier, and the only easy way into town was through the river, which was constantly patrolled by the boat guards. And the lava forest itself was home to giant lizards, rats, and tortoises, and they had an ever-expanding population of bats. Though its most expensive life forms were the birds and the butterflies, and it was not too uncommon for live birds or stuffed birds to be sold in the shops, and butterflies were always sold in neat little boxes or used for decorations. And the work Abel saw over the top was quite fine quality indeed, but he could not help feeling sorry for the little butterflies that were dead but preserved, and the short life had been snuffed out just to make the most beautiful serving tray his eyes had ever laid eyes upon. And after reserving rooms in the inn, Pierre set about to survey the situation of the harpies. And Abel said to Pierre, "Let me come with you." "Don't bother, your time will be better employed publicly studying magic for publicity's sake," suggested Pierre. Reading obvious grimoires in public was a popular ploy Abel employed, and what mages did hid from the world to study. Abel would flaunt his magical talents, and he rarely won him many friends, but it at least kept the humans from trying any funny business. And magic users, and even monkey magic users, were always held in fear and respect. They said, "Oh my God, he's a magic user! Ah!" Type?
14 minutes.
Trading his golden rose for black ones, Abel came downstairs to sit by the fireplace at the heart of the tea room, and before he came, the merchants and traveling nobles were engaging in polite, disdainful conversation, and all of them stopped to stare at the Monkey King enter with his large staff and large black spellbook and his black rose decorated in golden jewelry. And while he read his book, he mouthed the words of magic, and then others would stare at him in awe, and after 10 minutes of nothing uninspiring occurring, the residents of the inn figured that the night was simply playing a joke. And soon the polite conversation resumed while Abel's presence was completely ignored. So then they'd be like, "Oh, it's just like a monkey pretending to be a magic user. It's a monkey about, carry on." His concentration was interrupted an hour later when he noticed an elderly gentleman looking over his shoulder, and frowning he asked, "May I help you?" "Sorry, it was poor manners to stare," said the elderly man. "Why, you never seen a nagger or a mage before?" asked Abel the Monkey King. "No, not really. Not really. I found that ring of yours quite interesting. May I?" asked the gentleman. And Abel handed him his thumb ring, a ring that you wear in your thumb. Mm-hmm. And taking a small monocular, those little things that you, like a very tiny telescope. The gentleman looked at it closer, and then he asked, "What sort of black stone is it?" It is a black star sapphire," explained Abel, taking his ring back and then putting it back on. And he said absent-mindedly, "They grow like trees in one of the caves in my home." "Interesting," said the gentleman, pretending not to look interested, and he added, "Pray do tell, where can I find this cave?" "I know what you're thinking, so forget it. It is not worth killing yourself over a little bauble," said Abel, yawning as he continued to flip through his book. The polite conversation was cut short when Pierre entered the room, and Abel closed his tongue to greet his friend, and the pair greeted one another in the traditional nagger hooting fashion. And this is such a better display. Made those in the tea room laugh. And without saying goodbye to the gentleman, Abel left with Pierre in the direction of the bedroom, and the bedroom was just a place to hold whatever items were immediately necessary. And the innkeeper was disappointed to know that the naggers were taking residence in the 4 laurel trees that were outside the inn. And the innkeeper had left them because he felt that they were aesthetically pleasing, though at night more than one patron imagined seeing spooks within the branches. And since he maintained the trees, he asked Abel to pay a small fee for using the trees as a sleeping place. And he was surprised and a bit shocked when Abel paid him more for the trees than for using the rooms. And after putting his thumb away, Abel went outside and he climbed on the laurel tree. And once up there, the pair chose to speak in their native tongue while gesticulating a lot. And it was one of their favorite ploys to keep the humans in suspense, and more than once someone would pass by to stare, and at other times the children would throw rocks. That did not stop the pair from focusing on the task at hand. And before starting the conversation, Pierre asked, "Where's Gargantua?" "She's out for a walk," said Abel. "Without you? Now that is a bit unusual," commented Pierre. "Well, you were the one who wanted me to publicly study magic, and she too thought it was a good idea, so she left with Patty and Winston," explained Abel, and he added, "So how is the harpy situation? After speaking with the 5 official breeders, I had noticed some disturbing trends," started Pierre, building up suspense. And Abel poked Pierre's chest with the tip of his task to urge him to continue, and Pierre then said after the build-up, "In the wild, a harpy can live up to 90 years, while give or take a couple of decades, and while in captivity they tend to unilaterally croak at the age of 15 or 25. Poor breeding selections had led the harpy to go the way of the orca, and they have valuable pretty birds and overall healthy meats, and their intelligence now is no different than those of the common pigeon. And of the harpies in human possession, very few know that they once had the ability to speak." "And their behavior," asked Abel. "Just about what you expect of any domesticated little pet, always cringing and cooing at the sight of their master. And they are a shadow of the creatures that they used to be back in the wild," explained Pierre. "Is there any chance of reintroducing them to the wild?" asked Abel. Right now might not be a good time, and the harpies tend to get a bit violent during this time of year. And we could try speaking to one of their clamors, but there is no guarantee that they would accept the odd-looking weaklings into their fold," said Pierre. "You don't know that for certain, Pierre. It's like trying to, the harpies right now are in that city in specific, they are like how the dogs are in the human world. That they went from the noble wolf to Chihuahua, so then they'd be like, oh, we can introduce into the wild to live among the wolves, a little Chihuahua. You get me? I like wolves. Time?
And 9 minutes 30 seconds.
"You don't know that for certain, Pierre, and it's only been 300 years or so. Species can't alter so much in such a short amount of time. Current company excluded, and besides that sounds like a feeble human excuse, and I thought we had agreed that we weren't going to do things like our depraved cousins, and they know what they're doing wrong, and yet they insist on keeping intelligent creatures in captivity. And if you ask me, the only creatures who can make it into the real world are humans, said Abel. Let's say hypothetically we free them all and we put them together in one colony. What do you think is going to happen? Asked Pierre. I don't know, you tell me, said Abel, laughing, and Pierre sighed, not getting the joke, and noticing Pierre's dour look made Abel add, look, for now we should just focus on putting out of business all of the harpy breeders in town, and later I will call Nanahi and see if he can track down the rest of the harpies, and with any luck, he will save us the trouble of fetching them all over the country. I don't think they're as popular as all that, and I travel quite a lot, and there's only relevant in the surrounding towns and in a few cities. And dragons technically have a monopoly over the exotic pet market, commented Pierre. Perhaps, Pierre, perhaps. Still, it would be worth doing some proper observations, and we should follow the usual paper trail of these harpies, said Abel. And with this idea in mind, Pierre and Abel parted ways. And Abel waited in the tea room patiently for Garganta to come back, and since he was not ready, he went out to look for her. And the first thing he did was hoot loudly, and the birds echoed his call, staring at the town, and they were not used to such bizarre sounds at night. And the birds informed Abel that Garganta and Patty were in the dungeons, and Winston, on the other hand, was in the middle of town in the stocks, and decided to first check on Winston, and he found him with a bleeding eye and a cut lip, and aside from the minor injury, he was more or less in one piece. What happened? Asked Abel. The usual, said Winston, laughing. And the others? Asked Abel. Patty, I don't know, but Garganto is probably getting out of prison, and she played dead as soon as the guards came, and it's a good thing her victim was unconscious, so nobody really knows what happened, and the guards took us prisoners till this mess was sorted out, explained Winston. So like they all got in a stupid fight, and one of the things the stocks is where like, that they put people to rot outside like that, If you're a prisoner while you're in the stocks, inquired Abel, the dungeon was full, plus the locals were bored, so the nobles felt like setting up a new entertainment. And I tell you, there are some of the worst human beings I have ever met, commented Winston, giving a sly smile. So since like the prison was fun, they just put him outside so that like humans would throw rocks at him or something while he's helpless to defend himself. Such as is a human way, medieval wise. And even modern wise too, we don't know what happens like in lawless areas and whatnot. Whatever, time bro?
6 minutes.
Another look of yours, and I don't like it, said Abel. He undid Winston's bounds, and together they made their way towards the dungeon. And the dungeons were located in a military fort at the foot of the castle. And there were at least 5 of these forts built independent from the castle, and the fort was quiet, which was a bit unusual. And other railings of the walls were littered with crows, and each staring silently with their black eyes. And after climbing the walls, Abel was moderately surprised to see a mountain of corpses, all ripped to shreds. Examining the bodies of clothes made Abel conclude that they had been killed by the harpies, and harpies have particularly sharp talons, and the way they pounced on their victim was akin to the kill strike of an owl, and which were the harpies' closest biological relatives. So like the owls would eventually evolve into harpies. Not Pokemon style, but like over generation. Like owls, they had nocturnal hunting habits, and some of the humans had pieces of their limbs ripped off, and this was a clear sign of harpy feeding. And Abel frowned and he said, how strange. Don't keep us in suspense, urged Wisdom. Normally harpies pounce on their victim's head to give them a painless death. These little ladies make quite a gory mess, and look at their faces. They agonize till the very end, said Abel. We should hurry, urged Winston, and Abel started jogging towards the entrance of the dungeon, and before following him, Winston came up to a human and dipped his hand into the cavity of the fresh corpse, and he took out the liver, and then he ate it. And after eating his first meal in a day, he sprinted after Abel with his renewed strength. And as they went further inside, the silence was replaced with moans and screams of terror, and some of the human guards were still barely alive. And from time to time, Abel would randomly strike a guard with his staff and provide him with a quick healing. And the blow to heal had the secondary purpose of leaving them unconscious. So he would heal them but also leave them unconscious so that they wouldn't get in his way. Abel walked past the torture room, but Winston couldn't help but sneak a peek. And the stagnated alone was enough to nauseate him, and inside he saw a bizarre silhouette which pushed him aside, and the scene was gone before he could get a good look at it. And still a bit shaken, he caught up with Abel, who was waiting patiently for him with Gargantua and Patty. And smiling, Abel asked, "What's the matter? You look pale." "Something bumped into me, and I did not see what it was," said Winston, disturbed. "Oh, you mean Shady. He lives under the plank beds of the dungeons, and at night he likes to wander to the dungeons," explained Patty. "Shady, yeah," said Winston, not too convinced. "Did you see the harpy?" asked Abel. "Yeah, she was a real scary one," commented Pierre. "Now," commented Patty. "Where is she now?" asked Winston. In the answer to the question, Gargantua entered the scene, and the bottom of her dress and her hands were drenched in blood, and with her choppy voice she related how she had strangled the harpy, and the demon was killing everything in the dungeon, human or not, and Abel walked towards a dark corner there with his head, and there he saw the hand sunk into her body laid a beautiful carcass of a peacock harpy. And peacock harpies did not truly exist in the world. Rather, they were made to look at peacocks to care for, selective breeding. You know how you turn a wolf into a pug or a Dalmatian or something like that? It was half the head of a human, and together with Winston, Ava brought back the harpy towards the dungeon, and after cleaving out a few human corpses, they plugged the needles from the Iron Maiden to fashion it into a coffin. And it took the effort of all of them to put the Iron Maiden flat in the ground, and hearing the commotion on the floors above made the group hurry. And the corpse of the harpy was placed inside it, and more ice was added, and with the body kept relatively fresh, Abel drew a pentagram around the Iron Maiden, and he drew sight towards the four cardinal points, and a dull hissing followed by a loud screaming was heard from inside the door of the dungeon, and so could be heard clashing into items, and the spell was soon completed, and the harpy was sent towards the Iron Maiden for future usage. And when the door was burst open, the new guards found the Nagas cowering, and their first instinct was to attack the non-humans, and they were soon cut down by the strange shadow with the black hat. And the figure was only lingering by the door for a few seconds before silently departing. And after that strange adventure, Abel and his party resolved to come back later. And doing since the night way was no longer an option, and the Nagas had been blacklisted in the city, and they were accused of arbitrarily raiding the forts, and the incident spawned a wave of non-human killings, and the survivors were eventually cornered in the inn where Abel was staying. And his military powers were well known, so the non-humans naturally assumed that he would be willing to help them, and once they paid money for protection money, he threw the ampule of Russalka out the window. And close to sunrise, the sky was clear, and the Titan moon shone golden, and the guards were busy breaking doors down with large pieces of lumber, and the captain grew paranoid when he saw the mysterious vial with the tenebrous blue liquid. And from the inside, Abel said, "Damn it, I missed the fountain." "Now what?" inquired Winston, because Russalka, to manage her, to manifest her power, she needs liquid, so that when he threw her out the window, the thing landed on the ground instead of the fountain. So what he did was pointless. Russalka, so do your thing, and then I missed the fountain. Because she needs liquid to grow bigger and turn into a giant ship and whatnot. So yeah, it's like a powerful creature, but with a lot of limitations. Well, we need lots of water. Time, bro?
17 seconds.
Vale, venga.